Hey guys, what's up? It's Kevin for the win, and we're back for another edition of Diablo 3. Today on the channel, we are taking a look at the Monkey King's Garb, also known as a Tempest Rush build, a little bit different from Patterns of Justice. Monkey King's Garb, 2-piece bonus, your damage taken is reduced by 50% while Sweeping Wind is active. 4-piece bonus, every second Sweeping Wind spawns a decoy next to the last enemy you hit that taunts nearby enemies and then explodes for 1000% weapon damage based on the stacks of Sweeping Wind you have. 6-piece bonus, Lashing Tail Kick, Tempest Rush, and Wave of Light have their damage increased by 15,000% for each stack of Sweeping Wind you have. So you use Sweeping Wind to get stacks for Tempest Rush. To help with this build, as you can see here, we are using the Captain Crimson set because Captain Crimson goes with just about everything, like I always say on this channel. 2-piece bonus, 6,000 life per second, reduces cooldown of all skills by 20%, reduce all resource costs by 20%. 3-piece bonus, damage dealt is increased based on the percentage of cooldown. Damage is reduced based on the percentage of cost reduction. We're going to be using conventional elements, Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, Cesar's Memento, as you see here. We're going to, obviously, for the necklace, have to use some Woku's Shrines. For the weapons, you want to run Vengeful Wind, because it increases the stack of Sweeping Wind by 10, and increases the damage, which is very important. You also want to use Wan Kim Lao. For hitting with Tempest Rush, will activate Cyclone Strike and deal increased damage. For the skills, Crippling Wave, Tempest Rush Flurry, Epiphany, Desert Shroud, Sweeping Wind, Inner Storm, Blinding Flash, Faith in the Light, and Mantra of Salvation, Agility. For the passives, Beacon of Etar, Harmony. You also want Seize the Initiative, and Relentless Assault in the Kanai's Cube. Very important you run this. Balance, Mantle of Channeling, and Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac. This is what my Paragon looks like currently. For the follower, my recommendation, have a Broken Crown, Flavor of Time, Nemesis Bracers. Everything else you put in here, like Credy's Flame, and maybe you want to put a gold skin in here or a homing pad, those won't really help too much for you, but it's absolutely imperative that you have Broken Crown, Flavor of Time, and the Nemesis Bracers. For the purpose of this showcase, we will be doing a greater of 60, 65, 70, and 75. That way you will have a good feel as to how well this performs from Torment 13 through Torment 16. Now, some people do consider this lower S tier to high tier, I guess you could say, or A tier, but it's so-so. Okay, as you can see, when you get into the gray area, first thing that you're going to do is activate your Sweeping Wind, then start using your Tempest Rush. Now, unfortunately, one of the big drawbacks of using the Monkey King's Garb set is that if you hold in the Tempest Rush too long as opposed to tapping it, you will burn through your spirit. So in order to mitigate this, we are going to be using our Epiphany quite a bit. Our Epiphany will allow us to attack faster, teleport around, and on top of that, it will naturally rebuild our spirit really quickly, so we'll have to kind of mitigate that way. When it comes to this particular Tempest Rush build, as in comparison to the Patterns of Justice, you can honestly just hold in Tempest Rush, and you don't have to worry about getting back that spirit. With the Monkey King's Garb, obviously, you're going to be relying a lot more heavily on just tapping. Hopefully, the decoys will go up. As I've mentioned in the past when I have covered this armor, one of the reasons why a lot of people don't like it is because the decoys very rarely go off. It's kind of weird. It's like a very known glitch that has never really been addressed by the devs, and the chances of it ever being addressed probably at this point is pretty low. But in order to really get the decoys to go off, you kind of have to attack in diagonal patterns, because if you just go straight line, there's a random tendency that the decoys sometimes don't go off, they don't trigger. It's weird. It's been a known issue in Diablo 3 for quite a while, and it hasn't been addressed. Now, as for what the Blinding Flash does on this particular set, it's there because it's used in conjunction with Bane of the Trap. Basically, what you do is when you see an Elite Pack, you would want to go Blinding Flash. That way you can do an increased amount of damage and get an easy pop for things. You also use the Blinding Flash for the Riff Guardian. It's very important, obviously, to keep your Sweeping Wind stacks up, so that way your decoys can be active. While trying to keep those stacks up, sometimes if you're just doing it naturally with Sweeping Wind and not attacking with Tempest Rush, it will burn through your spirit. So again, it's really micromanaging your spirit. But we have Crippling Wave just in case you kind of get a little too aggressive and Epiphany is not necessarily around you. That way you can just go Crippling Wave. I would recommend, if you're going to go Crippling Wave, though, usually to do it in Epiphany as opposed to doing it outside of your Epiphany form, because it won't really help you too much in the long term. This is actually a pretty good armor when you have proper optimization. So let's talk about optimization's sake here. Well, first thing you really need to do is, obviously, since you're using Captain Crimson, you benefit greatly from having tons of cooldown reduction. So my recommendation would be, wherever possible, get cooldown reduction 8.0%. That will give you the maximum amount of potential damage when you have 8.0% cooldown wherever you can fit it in. Subsequently, I would also recommend resource cost reduction 8.0% wherever you can fit it in. The reason for that, obviously, is, again, going back to the Captain Crimson free piece bonus, the more cost reduction you have, resource cost reduction, the more damage will be reduced to you. So it's in your benefit, because as you're going higher up in the Greater Rifts, obviously, you're going to take a lot more damage from these mobs that do more damage. So if you could reduce it, why not? And then in conjunction with Epiphany, you can kind of get tanky. One of the things that you will notice with the Samwuku set is it is not the most tankiest of the builds. In fact, it's kind of squishy. Way more squishy than Parents of Justice, because Parents of Justice is significantly faster when it comes to doing its Tempest Rush variation of the build. That one's truly speed, as this one is more speed that sometimes modifies itself into a more push-oriented type of Tempest Rush build. And because of that, it's not as powerful, and because it's not as powerful, it gives you more opportunities to get squashed when you're trying to speed through things. So that's why I say resource cost reduction is kind of very important. We'll talk about more optimization in a second. When you get to Riff Guardian, Blinding Flash, and then go Tempest Rush, where you have like 10 sweeping wind stack, and you pretty much should, on the lower Greater Risk, pretty much implode a Riff Guardian like you just saw there. In terms of the legendary gems that you would want to use for optimization, like I said before, Bane of the Powerful, Bane of the Trap, and then from there you could choose between Goak of Swiftness. You could also put a Stoic in here if you wanted to just give you a little bit more tankiness. I would say I would prefer Goak of Swiftness, just because it gives you a little extra cooldown on your sweeping wind stacks, as well as your Epiphany, and you kind of rely heavily on your Epiphany here. It also gives you fast Blinding Flash. Alright, that was Greater Rift 60, 3 minute and 50 second clear time. So, very, very fast still, very, very powerful, not fully optimized, keep your mind. Same strategy as before for the Greater Rift 65. You want to activate your Sweeping Wind. Next, you will go Tempest Rush. You want to try to get your Sweeping Winds up to 10 stacks as fast as possible. That way you could do the maximum amount of damage. If you see that you're burning through your Spirit too fast, activate your Epiphany. If you also are in Epiphany form and you want to get a very quick build back up of your Spirit meter, you can actually click in your Crippling Wave a couple times, and it should, within about 3 hits, just build you right back up. Keep in mind, you know, it's also got a significant buff thanks to this particular armor as well, so it's definitely worked in your benefit. You could use Lashing Tail Kick. Some builds I have seen use it. I'm not preferably a fan of that particular thing. I think you can hit a lot faster with Crippling Wave to be able to build up your resource generator, especially when you're in Epiphany mode. So that's pretty much what you're going to want to do. Going back to optimization, the other thing that I would say after you do cooldown reduction everywhere at 8.0% and resource cost reduction everywhere at 8.0%, I would also recommend that you put in your helm crit hit chance 6.0%. I would recommend in your gloves that you put these free stats because they help you long-term do more damage, that being crit hit chance at least 6.0%, crit hit damage 50%, and attack speed 8.0% preferably, but if you land, like, let's say a 6 or 7, it's perfectly fine. You can kind of rock with it until you can reroll the stat necessarily, or if you can't reroll the stat, obviously you're going to run into a lot of pieces, and then you can swap out maybe the piece for a better thing. Remember, when it comes to armor optimization, it's a marathon. It's not a race. It might take you a while to get the perfect stats that you need, particularly for this armor build. I will have a link in the description to a sample armor build for the Monkey King's Garb that will give you a complete breakdown as to what type of stats you would preferably like to see. I'm giving you stats that I preferably like to see for my particular type of playstyle, where I like to speed through things, and I'm not necessarily concerned so much about being tanky as opposed to being very powerful in my attack stats. So keep that in mind. That's why I'm going to link you a sample armor build if you want to do things a little bit differently from the way I am particularly playing it. But we will have very similarities between my build and the one that's linked. Moving forward, after you have gotten all that stats in crit hit damage and attack speed in your helm and your glove, I would recommend then, obviously, since this is a Sweeping Wind and Tempest Rush build, I would recommend first and foremost, because Tempest Rush is where our main source of damage is coming from here, as opposed to Paragon of Justice, where Sweeping Wind is more so the one that's doing the most amount of damage with our particular build. I would recommend anywhere where you can get Tempest Rush to 15% on your armor, definitely invest in it. Then subsequently, anywhere where you can get Sweeping Wind and increase the amount of damage, definitely try to do so as well. Those particularly are the two stats you will want to buff the most on this armor, because those are the ones where your main source of damage is coming from. Everything else is just kind of here to help supplement and build back resource generation, and the Mantra of Salvation is in case you want to dodge real quick and you get into a bad situation. That's obviously easier to do for PC players who have a little bit more free range of movement with their controller options as opposed to console players. For those asking maybe why my UI is different, because I'm playing on Nintendo Switch platform. However, all the information that I have provided for you works for every particular build, as all the information is interchangeable. The only difference is that some people play on mouse and keyboard, and some people will be playing this on controller. I am actually playing this on Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons, not even in Pro Controller. You can see I'm pretty much doing just fine here. Okay, Riff Guardian again, Blinding Flash, you'll run into it with your Tempest Rush with 10 stacks of Sweeping Wind, and you should be able to pop the Riff Guardian with natural ease. So that's pretty much what you're going to want to do. Moving forward, where exactly does this armor fit into in regards to Season 24 of Diablo III? Well, that's a great question. As we all know by now, if you've been a follower of my channel for quite a while, the Season 24 Monk set is the Uliana Stratagem set for the Monk. That is a okay armor. It is a mid-tier armor. It can probably get you into about Greater of 60, Torment 13 with ease, but then it's going to kind of need a lot more optimization than you probably want to invest in it to be able to push it any further in your seasonal journey. My recommendation, obviously, as I said before, was that you use Uliana throughout your seasonal journey until you add the pieces of the Patterns of Justice set, because that's like the S tier and the highest possible damage you can do, and fast and quick, which will give you a high leaderboard placement. However, let's say Patterns of Justice isn't dropping for you, and you happen to get the Monkey King's Garb. Monkey King's Garb is borderline S tier, however, requires a lot of optimization, and it requires a lot of experience playing it to be able to perform great in high tiers. Hold that for a second. That was Greater of 65, Torment 14, 3 minutes and 48 second clear time. So you see, as you're going up 5 levels, there's about maybe a 15 to 20 second increase in that. Alright, so next up, we are going to do a Greater Rift 70. Before I get into that, I need to unload a couple of pieces of gear, because I ironically was looking for certain things here. Okay, so we got an Uliana piece that I need to check out here. Squirt's Necklace, which is going to help. Kyoshiro's Soul, I'm actually going to put in my Kanai's Cube, because I actually need it for a different type of build that I'm kind of working with. I want to make sure, though, I don't use extract the legendary Kyoshiro's Soul, because that's something I'm using on Paragon Justice. Obviously, we're going to extract this one. Alright, that's great. Alright, I'm going to use that for something else. You can't use this particularly in the Monkey King's Garb, because you're using Captain Crimson, and Captain Crimson, you kind of have to use the belt and the pants for that, because you, obviously, the Monkey King's Garb particular outfit doesn't have the type of flexibility in terms of where you could just kind of mix and match with Captain Crimson in other spots. So, unfortunately, that's it. I don't need these Uliana boots. I did think I needed them, but I actually have a better pair of boots that I'm rocking. Okay, so we are going to do a Greater Rift 70 this time, I believe, or I'm going to do 75. Let's see here, a quick second. As you can see, I've cleared out Greater Rift 150s, because I know some people always ask, wait, what? How do you do this? Well, remember, I've been playing Diablo 3 for a long time, so when I was playing Diablo 3 originally, there was already only up to Torment 13, so Torment 13 was originally Greater Rift 150, then they added Torment 16 and changed things around a little bit, so that answers your question there. Alright, so Greater Rift 70, same strategy as before. We're going to activate a Sweeping Wind. Then we're going to use our Tempest Rush. As we see that our generation is going low in terms of spirit, we will want to activate our Epiphany to get back naturally some spirit. We can also use a Crippling Wave if we need to be able to build it back super fast while in Epiphany mode. And pretty much you're going to Tempest Rush through thing while trying to maintain your Sweeping Wind stat. So, like I said before, if you were to get to some Wuku set, and you know what you're doing and you have proper optimization, this is kind of borderline S tier to high tier. It depends on the type of player you are and how experienced you are, and if you've optimized. This kind of can do Greater Riff 130, 135 comfortably when it's fully optimized and properly set up. However, if you're a less experienced player, you might not be able to achieve that, and you might see maybe a drop off about 120. Again, it's a matter of where you are optimization-wise. Parents of Justice can clear Greater Riff 150 solo easily. This one, it can potentially clear a Greater Riff 150 when optimized, but it loses a lot of speed. So if you're one of these people that likes high leaderboard placement, that's really going to be a question as to, I don't think you're going to get as much value out of this armor as you would Parents of Justice. Now, my recommendation, let's say you get this to drop and you still don't have the Parents of Justice and you need to switch to Uliana, definitely switch this to this compared to Uliana, because you can at least do 10 to 20 more Greater Rifts with this as opposed to what you would be able to do with Uliana. I still recommend, though, definitely Patterns of Justice, so definitely not. But this is a pretty decent one in case maybe you prefer Tempest Rush over Sweeping Wind as your focus, because maybe that's just kind of how you roll, and that's perfectly fine if that's kind of how you roll as well. So there's that. Now, to address a frequently asked question on the channel, because I have seen it come up quite a bit, what am I going to do when it comes to September, when it comes to Diablo 3 content? I have answered this already before, but I know not everybody watches every video that I put out, as shocking as that is, considering it's a great source of information I give out for every season that comes out for every armor. But that's perfectly fine, right? Okay, so the plan right now for season, or September content for Diablo right now is this. September 23rd, Diablo 2 Resurrected is officially released. So, when when Diablo 2 Resurrected drops, obviously I will be picking it up. I am still uncertain as opposed to whether I'm going to be picking up the Diablo 2 Resurrected on my Nintendo Switch or my PC. I have a really good PC, obviously, a gaming laptop that can run Diablo 2 Resurrected with the specs that I have. It should, for like almost $2,000 that this laptop is. Alright, but with that being said, you know, I'm still debating on the platform, but the plan is to play Diablo 2 Resurrected on the channel. I do plan to make guides. Obviously, Diablo 2 Resurrected, the first like 2 weeks of playing the game, I probably won't have S tier builds ready, because obviously I cover a lot of our type of content on the channel, besides just Diablo. I know, I always say it's a variety channel, although Diablo 2, obviously at that, when it comes out, and Diablo 3 will have a pretty good focus, because I know a lot of my viewers like that type of content, which is why I continue to produce it, despite the fact that all that crap's going on with Blizzard, that I definitely do not condone any of Blizzard's actions. I don't tolerate it. I'm pretty disgusted by it, but you know, there are people who play Diablo 3 and enjoy the game and everything of the sort, and as a content creator, despite that, I've made pretty much kind of a career at this point playing Diablo 3 on the channel, so I can hate the company and still like the game, and I still want to put out guides for people who may not know anything about this, because maybe they're smart and stay off the internet and don't hear things. And the other thing is, like I say, I'm going to place my faith in the law, and that the lawsuit will settle things and handle things, and it'll be a real shake-up. I'm not going to boycott a game, because it's just not very intuitive in my personal opinion. So Greater Rift 73 minutes and 46-second clear time, and that's not even with full optimization. There's only 3 augmentations on here. Right, so first 2 weeks of Diablo 2 Resurrected will probably be like general first impressions. Then as we move into October, I will be giving, obviously, armor, set builds, class builds that I think will be good for people who are rocking it and maybe newer comers to the game. In terms of Diablo 3 content, the plan is starting in September, I will be doing 1 Diablo 3 video a week. I have not decided what day that will be. Also, in regards to Diablo 3, I'm also waiting to see what Blizzard is planning to do in regards to Seasonal Journey. I've always said there's 2 scenarios as to what can happen with Diablo 3 content after September. If Blizzard plans to do a Season 25 of Diablo 3, which I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm very skeptical. I think we're pretty much at the twilight of Diablo 3, and we probably won't be getting more content for it in terms of seasonal journeys. If they don't support a seasonal journey That's chapter 25. What I will do is I will make final builds for every armor and build that we have covered on this channel. And those will be my final impressions of every armor, my final builds, my final advice to everybody who may stumble upon Diablo 3 in the future. And we will bittersweetly bid Diablo 3 a very fond farewell. You know, like I always say to you guys on the channel, I'm very thankful to all the Diablo 3 enthusiasts and players and viewers that I have that came to the channel and discovered the channel through my Diablo 3 guides, you know, and builds, and left positive comments and feedbacks and subscribe, and even constructive criticism. I even, you know, some construction criticism I've incorporated into the builds. Just look at the Whirlwind Barbarian build in particular. But, so, you know, I always can say I'm very thankful to you guys, which is why I continue, despite everything that went on with Blizzard, to create Diablo 3 content here. You know, without you guys, the viewers, there would be no channel. You know, so thank you, obviously, for all the support and everything. So it will be bittersweet if we're close to Diablo 3's end, just considering how long I've been covering on the channel. I've been doing this already now a year plus since I started the channel during the pandemic. It's kind of weird to talk about these things now, even. So, you know, thank you to everybody. But if it's the end of it, you know, we'll go out with one good final build guides for everything, and that'll be kind of like my impromptu season 25. However, if, let's say, Blizzard decides that they are going to support Diablo 3 Season 25, I will continue to put out, again, one Diablo 3 video a week covering the most important stuff from Season 25. And then if I feel like we need to go back and cover an armor, maybe that needs to be revisited after a while, I might do it. But I'm going to just kind of focus on the major things like the starter builds when it comes to that and stuff. And then put more focus on Diablo 2 Resurrected. Obviously, I always like to listen to you, the viewers of the channel. So, if you say maybe you would prefer more Diablo 2 Resurrected content, and you'd like less Diablo 3 Resurrected content, or not Diablo 3 Resurrected, but Diablo 3 Eternal Collection content, then I could definitely do that. Obviously, I'll pay attention to the viewership and see which of the two things performs better on the channel, and we will make necessary adjustments as well for that. But definitely let me know what you want. Do you want Diablo 2 Resurrected, or do you want Diablo 3, or do you want both? Obviously, I'm not going to stop playing any type of Diablo games for this foreseeable future. We got Diablo 2 Resurrected if Diablo 3 dies out. Obviously, Diablo 4 is still in development. So that'll probably be coming. I'm thinking we're probably got still another 2 years before we see Diablo 4 coming out. Hopefully my laptop will still be able to run that. I'm very confident. I have an actually very new, good laptop that should be able to run all those things. I haven't had no problems running any games whatsoever on like ultra settings. So, alright, Riff Guardian, we go Blinding Flash, 10 stacks of Sweeping Wind, so we go Tempest Rush. As you can see, it still implodes things. Obviously, you saw I took a death or two there. As you go higher up, if you're not careful, stray bullets can kind of one-shot you. That's just kind of what's going to happen with this armor. If you get one-shotted, don't get stressed out. As you go higher up in the Great Rift, obviously, these enemies are doing a tremendous more amount of damage to you, so definitely, you know, don't stress it too much, guys. You know, so there's that. Now, let's see this. This is Great Rift 75, if I remember correctly. So we did a 4-minute and 8-second clear time, which is very, very, very good for this build. So I believe we're going to stop here because a Great Rift 80 would be a little too much. It would be like a 20-second difference. Alright, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. As always, a like on this video is greatly appreciated. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, consider doing so as it helps the channel grow. And I'll see you next time.